The 2020 mid-engine Corvette. The reveal is coming in just about 6 weeks from now. That's going to be on July 18th. Now, Chevy left us with a couple of teaser videos, and one in particular that I have been obsessing over because, you know, I'm just kind of an internet detective. Now, you can call me Detective Eric. My passion is high performance and sports cars and that kind of stuff. If you like that, I've got a Discord chat. It's right down below. You can also direct message me on Instagram. So far, there's only 2 official videos from Chevy about the C8 Corvette. One was the reveal in New York City a while ago. We didn't really learn a whole lot there. And then there was a second video, I'm gonna call it the teaser video, which had a lot of images. It had some track stuff. It had a history of the mid-engine Corvette, and I've been just obsessing over this video. I've been putting it on pause, and I found something really interesting. Quick recap, we actually don't know that much about the C8 Corvette because Chevrolet has really been keeping this one under wraps. What we do know is that they've added a second production shift, and they've added 400 part-time workers to the assembly line. So we know that demand's gonna be pretty big, or at least Chevy is expecting it to be really big. Now, if you're looking to buy a new C8 Corvette, I definitely recommend you go check out midenginecorvetteforum.com. There's a couple dealers that are selling at MSRP. And by the way, I'm not taking any money for this video. This is not sponsored. This is just a really good forum. While we don't have anything absolutely definitive, I think it's a pretty safe bet to assume that we're gonna have a V8 in this car. Now, as you know, the base C7 Corvette, the current generation, has a 6.2 liter called an LT1. It's a normally aspirated engine, makes about 460 horsepower and around 460 pounds-feet of torque. It's called an overhead valve design, and what that means is that the camshaft, which pushes the valves, is in the V of the engine. So stick with me here because this is important to my theory about what kind of engine we might be getting with the C8. There's a lot of advantages to this kind of engine design. One of them is weight. This has an aluminum block and you've only got one camshaft down in the V. Now Ford has got, and the Coyote engine has got 2 heads with, of course, with 2 cams in them each. So it's a quad cam design. It's a lot more weight. It's a lot more complexity. The LT1, which is based on the earlier LS engines, it's all sort of the same basic design. It's also highly reliable because it is more simple. Another big advantage is it makes a lot of torque down low. You don't need a lot of RPMs, and it's very responsive too. On the downside, it doesn't rev quite so high, and obviously when you've got a single cam, you're gonna have less variability and adjustability of the timing of any of the individual valves. With a quad cam design or even a dual cam design, you've got a lot more variability how you can adjust the cam timing, so you can time things for more efficiency and you can time them for more power. It sort of really depends upon the engine management and the way that the manufacturer decides to basically program the engine. So this is the oil pump. It's on the front of the engine, and this is driven by the crankshaft. Now here's another video I found, and you can see that the rotor here basically is driving the oil pump. It's called a gerotor. I'm just gonna call it a rotor. Now here's where it gets actually really super interesting. So looking at this promo video, this teaser video that Chevy put out a couple weeks ago, they've got embedded in this video some still frames, which are just a couple of frames. So I put it up in Adobe Premiere, I paused it, and I screenshot it, what you're seeing on screen right now. So just a couple seconds ago, we were looking at this rotor, which drives an oil pump. Over here on screen now you can see there are 2 rotors. So I think it's fairly obvious that there's going to be 2 oil pumps in this engine that they're showing. We don't know what it is yet, but I think there's going to be 2 oil pumps because we got 2 rotors. There's also 2 timing chains. So again, what does a timing chain do? Timing chain is attached to the crankshaft, and it is also attached to the camshaft. So essentially the camshaft is driven by this timing chain, and that basically allows the opening and closing of the valves at the right times. So I found this theory on Corvette forum, a user called Jeff V, and it was a really good post, and that's why I'm making this video. Thank you, Jeff. So one thing that we got here is we got 2 timing chains. So back in 2001, General Motors developed a concept engine called the XV8. Now this engine had 2 cams and 3 valves per cylinder. In terms of the 2 cams, 2 of the cams were driving the intake valves and 1 was driving the exhaust valve. So why would you want to do this? This is back in 2001. So clearly it's for timing purposes. Again, like a quad cam engine right now, Even with dual cams, you can vary the timing of the camshaft so that you can optimize the opening and closing of the valves on both the intake side and on the exhaust side of the engine. And why would you want to do that? You can optimize for power, you can optimize for torque, you can optimize for fuel efficiency. There's different things you can do in different parts of the rev range. You're probably familiar with the Honda VTEC system that they introduced a whole long time ago, back in the early 90s, maybe even the late 80s, where basically you've got a cam that variable valve timing, and when you get higher up in the rev range, it changes the timing and you get a little bit more horsepower. We're fast forwarding here quite a few years, but that's essentially the same sort of system. You know, this XV8 engine had something called displacement on demand, and what it would do is it would shut down half of the cylinders for fuel efficiency. Now we know that Cadillac had this 4-6-8 system where they had this fuel cylinder shutdown kind of thing. It really didn't work that well, and pretty much all of the owners ended up basically converting their cars to V8 full-time. This was, I guess, an adaptation or a generational thing from that. This was still a concept engine. It never went into production, and it's very, very interesting because I think, well, here's my theory. So we got these two rotors, we got two timing chains. I think clearly we have two oil pumps. Two oil pumps can have a couple reasons, but why two timing chains? Typically all you need is one to run the camshaft. Sometimes you've got a dual timing chain system just for reliability in case one breaks. That's not the case in this engine here. We got one timing chain that's sort of going down onto the crankshaft, and we got another one which we can't really see where it goes. Maybe it goes off to the right side of the engine in the picture. Not exactly sure. So looking back at this XV8, we've got a cam on the bottom, we've got a cam on the top. One is for the intake, one is for the exhaust. On this engine that we're looking at from Chevy over here, is it possible we have a cam, two cams side by side? I don't really see a spot for a second cam above the lower one. If you look at this cutaway, which is not super revealing, you can see that above the camshaft, you sort of in the V of the engine, I think that is going to be where the intake manifold is going to go. I don't really see a spot for another cam up there. Is there a cam off to the right hand side? I'm not really seeing it either, although it's a possibility. With a mid-engine layout, width isn't like such a key concern like it is in a front engine layout, because you've got the engine mounted essentially transversely, so width isn't such a big consideration. So let me know down below in the comments, and you can also DM me on Instagram, what is the second timing chain for? I think this is like the question of the day from General Motors, or at least for me, excuse me. I don't really know. So is like dual cams a possibility in this engine? I'm not really too sure right now. So another possibility, is this an LT2 engine, which would be the ostensible upgrade to the LT1. Again, we've got the LT1 and the current C7. The most commonly accepted rumor is that the LT2 is going to be about 500 to 550 horsepower, something like that. 530 is a number I see tossed around. It's going to be in the base Corvette, something like that. So is this an LT2? I don't know. It's possible that this engine that we're seeing over here, this is maybe an upgraded version, maybe something from a Z06. Perhaps there's a couple of turbochargers bolted onto the side of this thing. We don't really know exactly right now, but I'm dying to know. Send me your theories. And the two oil pumps, I mean, the best thing that I can think of is that this just could be for reliability. As you know, in the current series and the LT1 series, you can get oil sloshing around from side to side under high G-load situations. In the older LSs, oil starvation was a problem under high G loads, and there's all kinds of aftermarket systems to address this. Less of a problem in the current engines, but still it's not perfect. So could this be basically just to have oil pickups on both sides of the engine? That's a possibility. Another possibility could be to put less load on the pump for perhaps, I don't really know, but maybe lower pressure situations in some part of the engine, higher pressure situations in other parts. Hard to say. So this launch is going to be July 18th. I'm definitely going to be there. I'm going to be live streaming, hopefully on Instagram. That worked pretty good at the Detroit Auto Show last time. And I'd also like to thank my Patreons who are helping to support this channel, and they make travel possible and all that kind of stuff. It starts at $1 a day if you're interested. Thank you so much. I got my Patreons right up here on screen. My name is Eric. Just pick another video if you like sports cars and all that kind of stuff. I will see you in the next video.